Hey, Sox fans. Welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, a local fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast, hosted by Nick Murawski and Pat Hester.
Yeah, welcome back, Sox fans, to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, it's episode 334. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. Now we are doing it weekly. We are done with our every other week. We are back on our weekly schedule, Sunday nights, 9:15 on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. But the audio available absolutely everywhere. You find your podcasts. If you're fairly new to the program, this is season 8 for us, covering this White Sox team through some horrible years. We're hoping that it's a lot better this year. We got some interesting things to talk about right off the get-go, as our White Sox are currently in action against the Seattle Mariners. Opening day countdown is upon us. Exciting time right now. And with me, as always, my best friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Happy opening week, buddy. Are you excited as I am? I mean, we've been talking about it, obviously, over the off season and preparing for this week, but it seems like it's jumped up on us here, and it's real. It's really happening.
Yeah.
You and I will be in Milwaukee on Thursday afternoon to take in the Sox Brewers game, which is going to be all kinds of exciting. And I can't wait to lift the lid on this year, my man.
Yeah. I've never been to a opening day on the road. You know, it's like I've always done the home opener, or sometimes the home opener is actually opening day, but I've never traveled to see the Sox on the road for an opening day when they are out of town. So this is really exciting. Sox have got a tough pitching matchup, which we'll get to in a little bit, but hopefully we're running into other Sox fans and we're well represented. I know there's some folks heading up for the weekend on the Saturday or Sunday games, but this is going to be a doozy. This has snuck up a little bit. I think with everything kind of going on, lives are busy and you're paying attention to the WBC perhaps, and here we are, that magical week where everybody's kind of starting at zero. I got the White Sox flag out and hung that outside the front door to let everybody know.
Skeesley didn't know. Did you like wave it around and like stick it in the yard, or?
Yeah, I've got a whole thing, a poem and a prayer. I'd say there's a whole thing that I do. And then I stick it in the front lawn, and then in the evening, then I move it to its proper home by the front door, and then usually the Sox flag stays out for a while. Once they get to double digits out of first place, I'm like, that's around the time of like Memorial Day, and obviously, you got the red, white, and blue for 4th of July and stuff. So I'll bring out the stars and stripes, but. Right now, man, hey, it's anybody's game. It's anybody's division right now, Pat.
Hey, all right. The ever forgiving, as you always say, AL Central up for grabs as usual.
Yep.
And it's exciting. When you take that down for the year, does it get folded in a certain way, like the triangle, like the American flag when someone passes?
I've got white gloves.
Okay.
I absolutely, I don't mess around. I've got I've got somebody from the local parish that plays the bugle, and I get it. They come on out, and we have a whole thing. It's usually at dusk, and I should probably videotape it at some point. So I can, it makes for good content.
The fact that you're married sometimes, Nick, is an amazing thing.
You and me both.
I think you're not a catch. I mean, look at you. You're striking and handsome and mustache and all, but the quirks. And I learn new things about you all the time.
There are some quirks. We got a cast of characters with us this evening, which I appreciate. Pedro, Sydney, Mailman Jack, good to have you. Thunder indeed. Scott, Josh, Southside Jeff, Howard. Howard, you had asked me a question on the socials, how the shelving project was going. And Pat, I sent Pat a photo All the problems are over. I have refigured the schedule, the shelving, opened up my schedule a bit this weekend, made it a priority. I've got a nice clean shelf for what this year is going to bring to us in terms of bobbleheads. So
did you have to take a sick day for that, or was that during a normal off period time?
That was during a normal off period.
Okay.
Just everybody, I appreciate a lot of people checking in, concerned if I'm going to be able to house the current bobbleheads on this schedule. It's all been managed. Everybody can just breathe easy now.
Well, I mean, at some point, I think you do have 2 fireplaces in your home. You may need to think about another one with another mantle at some point. You do need to think about the future. It's an investment in your future, Nick. So
yeah,
just word to the wise.
Mailman Jack, boy, you're hitting it. Hey, I have White Sox bunting. Mailman Jack asked in the chat, no bunting on the porch railing. I have White Sox bunting, and I bring it out. It's only been out for the 2021 playoff run. I only bring it out for playoffs. So it's been unfortunately in the garage for a long period of time. But I know exactly where it's at.
Okay.
And I've got the fence space to do it. I've got the zip ties ready to go. We just need some magic here this year.
You're nothing if you're not prepared, Nick.
That's what I've heard. That is what I've heard. So it's exciting. And it's, I was saying this to somebody this past weekend. We were talking about just baseball and just WBC and, just excitement for the upcoming season. It's just fresh. Everything's fresh for a short period of time. And you got a clean slate and hoping that, the Sox get off to a hot start. That's what they really need. The offense, I think, is what we're going to have to rely on. I've got worries about the starting rotation, as I know a lot of people do. Pitching in general, we'll talk a little injury and what to expect, especially from Shane Smith, who's struggled number wise. But those numbers are deceiving. It's funny sometimes, Pat. I look at it as when the numbers are good during spring training. Well, this guy's a can't miss. Like this guy is going to make the team. He's going to have a hell of a year. When the numbers are not in our favor or the numbers are unfortunate, well, Arizona's tough. It's just, pitchers are working on things. They're working on different pitches. You can't really put a lot of stock in spring training numbers. So we'll talk numbers, especially, Pat, about a guy named Corey Lee. Have you heard about this recent news? This was just a couple hours ago.
I did see something that he didn't make the club. Is that what
that is what's happening here? There was news that Reese McGuire, old friend Reese McGuire, was coming back on a $1.2 million deal, which is not chump change. And, I'm going to read off some Kyle Teal quotes later. He seems like he's coming back sooner than what prognosticators thought.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I don't think the Sox are worried that Teal's going to be gone until Memorial Day. So what's with this Reese McGuire deal? Or do they have a trade in the works? Corey Lee has. I said something, on Twitter X. That dude's emotional roller coaster since the Kyle Teal injury, of probably the elation. You never want to be excited about an injury, but deep down, he's like, okay, man, I think I'm going to get my shot here. And he's been performing well in spring training, but spring training numbers to some, that's amazing. To others, it's no big deal. And now we're hearing that Corey Lee is not going to make the White Sox roster.
Yeah, to me it signals that there are things he's being shopped, because if you have your, I don't know how you want to rank Caro and Teal as far as who's the starter, who's not the starter. I still think that's got to be kind of ironed out throughout the year, depending on performance. But you're kind of the odd man out, and one of those guys goes down, and you don't make the team, and you sign another guy, to come back and as on a $1 million 1-year contract. it tells me that they've got other plans for Corey Lee. They recognize they're kind of there's a log jam at catcher, and it's something that you have to move on if you need to acquire other things, especially when you have a guy like Vassell go down and you've got an injury to your pen. Maybe there's an opportunity to move one of those pieces that you have abundance of and bring in another arm for your bullpen. So that, again, who knows what will happen, but it just seems like an interesting timing and an interesting turn of events, if you will.
There's a lot that's going to happen in the next 48 hours. This episode is not going to age well because things we're discussing right now are probably going to be figured out by the time folks are listening on possibly Monday afternoon or Tuesday. There might be new additions. There's going to be other roster moves, So this is just one of those weird episodes that if you're here with us live, this is great. But if you're listening on Wednesday, you might say, you guys are a bunch of knuckleheads. They figured all this stuff out already. So forgive us on that. But, the Sox picked up, they brought in Lucas Sims just as about an hour ago or so since we were recording. So there's your possible additional arm. Nothing too exciting there, but this was Will Venable on Corey Lee discussing this issue with not making the White Sox roster. Corey Lee was outstanding this camp. He's really an important member of this organization. Great relationships in the clubhouse, someone I personally love and have grown to respect, and it was a really hard decision. 14 games for Corey Lee this spring. A 297 average, 975 OPS, couple of home runs, 6 RBIs, 9 walks, 10 Ks, and I think a decent amount of stolen bases, if I saw that right. But, regular season work, nothing attractive at all in his time in a big league uniform for the Sox. So, he's been showing himself well in Arizona, but there's other ideas. There's other plans that the White Sox have in mind. I'm shocked that they're thinking Corey Lee is less than Reese McGuire. It must be a matchup situation. What Reese McGuire can bring that Corey Lee can't, but that's a surprising move.
Yeah, and maybe they've just kind of determined we've had him in our organization, and maybe this is as high as they think they can get with him. You've talked about it, like, okay, we've seen it in spring training, but the regular season has been a different story for him. Maybe they're just kind of looking at this and thinking, we kind of know who this player is. We've seen his ceiling. There's not much more there that we can tell. And maybe there's an opportunity to move him while his stock is at its highest, because as we progress into the regular season, as we've seen in the past, that's when the production goes back to the norm, and you can get there's an opportunity to get less for him. So maybe they're just trying to get out in front of it before the stock on him goes down.
Yeah. I really hope a guy like Caro, though, is not being shopped around. That would be really disappointing. I'm an Edgar Caro guy.
Oh, you are? Yeah, you're an Edgar Caro guy. Like I'm a Lenine Sosa guy.
Yes,
and
that's what we're all wondering about. Okay, Corey Lee stuff, Reese McGuire. Okay, but what does this mean for Lenine Sosa? Right, this is what you're concerned about, and a lot of other folks. I don't know. We have no word yet on the Lenine Sosa situation, where he's going to fall. I think you've got some outfield names that maybe we could predict, but that's some question marks there with the outfield. We know that some guys that are not going to be there, and then it's bench. So this is that again, like that 48-hour window where other teams are going through this too. So the Sox, could see somebody that's been cast off that they might be able to pick up and so forth. So as we count down, of course, to Thursday, to opening day, we know Shane Smith is going to go for the Sox, and it was announced just a couple days ago, which isn't too surprising, that Jacob Murawski is going to go for the Milwaukee Brewers. And he's been such an interesting cat. If you've been following him, you didn't have a lot of time to follow him, but he made a huge impact in a short amount of time last year. And we'll go over a little bit of numbers, but that's the matchup on Thursday in Milwaukee. Shane Smith against Jacob Murawski. Shane Smith was with the Brewers. He became a Rule 5 guy, and he made the most of it last year with the White Sox. He threw 146 innings for the Pale Hose in 2025. Does not have an opening day start, of course, on his resume. He was 7-8 last year, 3.81 ERA in 29 starts. He seemed to get better as the season went on, had some hiccups here and there, but that's to be expected. Really impressed, and good for him. We talked about the video that the Sox put out of him getting the announcement, that he was going to get the ball, and the work that he's put in. It's a wonderful story. He's had a rough spring. Numbers wise, again, I don't really know what guys are working on, and sometimes they don't openly admit it. Sometimes they do, but I remember years ago when Jeff Samardzija had his first spring with the Sox. Was this 2015, spring of 2015, perhaps? And he got roughed up. He got roughed up quite a bit in the spring, and then that continued into the regular season. Now, there have been other cases where it's been flipped, where guys have had rough springs and then, just they shake it off and it's nothing and they dominate. But I'll always remember that Samardzija one of he didn't look right in the spring. He was getting hit all over the place, and it just continued into the regular season. So hoping that's not the case for Shane Smith. Really need him to have a solid season to be an anchor for this rotation.
I mean, even if it reverted back to something similar numbers wise from last year, as long as it doesn't get worse than that, below 4 ERA, I can live with that. That doesn't scream or yell at you ace type of stuff, but we're a team without an ace at this moment, in my opinion. So it's going to be a collection of guys just kind of playing to the back of their baseball card type of situation, and hopefully there's not like a spot in this rotation where you just go, oh, we got no shot. Remember that was I can't remember what year it was, Nick, or maybe it was every year that I can remember for the past several, where it was like the fifth starter spot was just a black hole of nothingness, and we kept trying to plug in people there, and it was a stopgap just trying to get to the number one again. So as long as it's not that, and we can get quality more often than not, quality outings out of guys, I'm okay with that. I know what Shane Smith is. If he surprises me and does better than what last year's numbers are, that's great. That's just gravy to me. But just because he's your opening day starter doesn't signal to me that I should believe that he's, the ace of your staff. He's just the best of what you have at the moment, which is somewhat alarming. And you mentioned it at the top, it's going to be a year of, we're going to have to score that plus 4.5 to 5 runs a game if we are going to be somewhat competitive in this division this year.
Yeah, I think, this team has the ability to score. They've got guys that can, that could put the ball over the fence. They can keep the line moving. They've got guys that I feel comfortable and confident when they come up to bat. I feel good with them in certain situations. Again, we kind of, I sometimes forget that the Moon Man is on the White Sox. I tend to forget, and I think it's because we just don't see a lot of spring training action. We haven't been seeing him. He was in, with the WBC. What can he and Montgomery do, and Caro and a handful of others that can just ignite this team, hopefully in April and May. I think about hanging around in April, if you can just kind of hang around and not get buried, your pitching can hold things together. We wait for Teal to get back, hopefully by maybe mid-April, and then maybe you win May, because the summer looks tough. There's some tough matchups, especially after the All-Star break. I'd love to see a winning month. It hasn't happened since May of 2023, where we have a winning month.
Yeah.
And if you could start off April and May around 500 and just kind of hang in there, I think that gives some confidence to these young guys. And you string some early starts and win some games that maybe you shouldn't won, like some scrappy games. They matter just as much as September.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see. See what kind of team they're made of early on. And it's tough. Baseball's tough at the beginning, man. You're playing with some crazy weather, like a bunch of day games. After coming from Arizona, these guys are pros. They've been in other situations like this, but they'll admit it. This is not ideal.
Yeah, definitely not ideal. I mean, but to start, I mean, this is, if I'm a schedule maker, if I'm just us as fans, this kind of start makes sense for a Midwest team when you're starting off in a dome stadium where you're climate controlled, going to the Brewers and then going to Miami. I mean, to me, that makes that's the best case scenario for this team to try and get off to at least a 500 record. I mean, the Brewers are the Brewers. I think most folks think that it's the Cubs division to lose in the NL Central, but the Brewers always show up. And the Brewers always find a way. They're that scrappy team I wish the White Sox could be most of the time, even though they should be much better in a larger market. But we know who we are. So if you can find a way to get through these first two series and be 500, I'd be feeling great about ourselves, right? Couple road series in a row, but climate controlled. So really the excuses of going from like what we've had the last 2 days here in Chicago of, 80 degrees one day and then 45 degrees and a driving wind and the next day that makes it feel like it's below 30 degrees. I mean, you can throw that out the window for the first, two series at least until they come home and place the Blue Jays.
Yeah. So Brewers, of course, throwing righty Jacob Murawski. He only had 66 innings under his belt last year in 2025. Of course, he did not have an opening day start on his resume. He came in at just a weird time. I felt like shortly before the All-Star game, and all of a sudden he became an All-Star. He was 5-3 with a 4.36 ERA in only 15 games. 14 starts for the Brew Crew last year. It seemed as if Murawski crammed a career's worth of experiences into a few months in 2025. He arrived in the majors in June, firing 103 mile per hour fastballs, didn't allow a hit until his 13th inning on the mound. Won games opposite Paul Skeens and Clayton Kershaw, and was named to the NL All-Star team after only 5 starts. The earliest invitation in MLB history. Then he struggled so badly that the Brewers removed him from the rotation and tried him out of the bullpen, where Murawski reemerged as a postseason weapon against the Cubs and the NLDS and the Dodgers and the CS. So again, this guy's almost, like they said, a career's worth of experiences. So he'll be amped. He will be very much amped. A home opening day, his first opening day start. Young man, looking to prove himself, that he is here in the rotation to stay. Get after him early. Anytime you've got a hard throwing pitcher, a guy that's electric, get him early. Got to get him early.
Yeah, it'll be a new experience for him, and obviously a young phenom type of guy. But if you've got the old adage, guy that throws hard and probably more of a strikeout pitcher than anything else, be patient, try and work the counts, rack up that pitch total. I know, I'm assuming Shane Smith's not going to go long into this game because it's the beginning of the season. So you would think 4 or 5 innings out of him anyway, unless he's cruising along. So that's interesting.
True.
Mailman Jack is Captain Jokester in the chat today. No, there's nobody underneath my desk at the moment. Jack, stop being a creep. And Nick will always bring up that Milwaukee is the good land. He's just this isn't request hour here, Jack. We don't just say things because
Jack can request things though. Jack is Jack made a great comment on the social on Twitter X about I think Reese McGuire, wasn't he Lucas Giolito's personal catcher? And Giolito's still out there. Giolito's still out there, as Josh mentioned in the chat. So I still think it would be great if Giolito could make his way back.
You keep saying it. I mean, say it into existence. I mean, it'd be nice to. We've talked about it a bunch. It'd be a nice reunion.
We just need pitching. I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with this starting rotation. I don't think few people are. And you got Vassell going down, which we had a feeling something bad was happening last time we talked. He's going to be gone for the year, but still will be traveling with the team because he is he sends out a good vibe apparently.
So they're not going to do the jersey on the hanger type of thing when a player gets hurt.
Yeah, that was something. That was in Los Angeles against the Angels. Boy, when Eloy went down, that was something else. It was like
that needs to be reserved only for an unfortunate passing of a player. You can't do that for just an injury.
Yeah, and that was the injury where he in a spring training game was playing left field and he went to like rob a home run or something and his arm ripped in half when he went to go over the wall, I believe.
That's a perfect description of it. Doctor, what would you say happened here? Well, it is his arm ripped in half.
There's really no other way of saying it. I just like I've looked through all the journals and books. This is the way it's to be pronounced. Let's not French it up. His arm was ripped in half. So
let's hang his jersey up and bring it and carry it around with us.
And he had his batting gloves. His red batting gloves were also like around the collar of the hanger. It was
Lord
the
help
whole
us
thing.
all.
And at that point, and I think the team signed the jersey, which is a very like little league thing to do. Like if one of your key players like comes down with appendicitis or something before the season starts, all the kids get around with Sharpies and sign a jersey for the kid. That was, man, if that didn't tell you something's off with this collection. Something right here.
I don't know about this guy. Yeah, I mean the books. Yeah. Well, you're a well-read, educated person. Why don't you write a book? Why don't you do some investigative reporting in your off season? Because you only got 3 months until you're on summer break. You should start writing a book about the go back to like the post Ozzie when Ozzie got let go. You need to write a book from then until the TLR era probably is the best thing to do, or maybe into our old friend that spawned the quote of the week. So
Pedro,
get to Pedro.
I think a book needs to be done on once Sale was traded, from that point until Grifol, and then Grifol gets fired in midseason with like a year left on contract or something. Yeah. You need that right there. There's so much to unpack. It's scary to think about how much happened really, and the ups and downs, and that really needs to be studied and talked about, and a doc needs to be done, and sure, books, and because there was so many twists and turns to what should have happened, what was happening, behind the scenes stuff. If anybody will talk and really give us the dirt, that we need to really study that period.
How about your friends, our friends from Last Comiskey? They should do it. Maybe pitch that idea to them. That'd be a great documentary.
Yeah, I mean they're really great. They are. I think, fascinated with some of the kind of the fan experience, like stadium parts of the game. Like they're doing a madhouse on Madison. They're doing the old Chicago Stadium doc right now, and they're putting about all this footage together from that remarkable place that held so many moments. And I'm looking for that thing. They got their hands full, but yeah, that if anybody's, they're the ones that could do it.
Yeah,
For sure.
So anyway,
Yeah.
they are top men.
Yeah.
I am not. I'm just an idea man. But other people have to finish the job.
Sure. Well, we need those people too. We really do. Speaking of idea men, Ishbida, he's got ideas. He's got money. He is going to be your next White Sox owner in, I believe, 2029, if not sooner. And old Ish, I don't know if you saw this past week. He's gobbling up some property in the South Loop area. Did you hear about this? What were your thoughts when you're
buying up rail yards?
He's
like a railroad tycoon.
It's very 1900s of him.
What excited me the most, not the a new stadium for me. I know this is probably sacrilegious to say, but for me is a cool thing. I look forward to a new thing for the Chicago White Sox, a new way to highlight them as an organization, highlight them as more of a destination. Again, it's about us. It's about the true blue White Sox fans that bleed black, white, and silver. But honestly, the revenue that can be generated from a new stadium, the looks and the appeal and how it could look, as far as a free agent and having new stuff, and I that excites me. But what excites me more about it is it seems like the transition is really, really happening. Like, you don't just do this just to buy property if you're not planning on doing something with it. And number one, most importantly, keeping the team in Chicago, which I think is, extremely important. I don't think that for all that's ever said about Jerry, shopping the team to Nashville or, whatever, Indiana or Northwest Indiana may want to try and do to lure, whether it's the Bears or the White Sox. I don't think Jerry wants his legacy to be, I took the team out of the city, number one, or out of the state of Illinois, number two. So that's the most exciting part for me, is that one, that the regime change seems real, and it seems like it'll, at 2029, but it seems like decisions are being made now. That we were told earlier that, he has nothing to do with any decision making, at least with building a stadium. And it seems like he does. And the fact that it'll be still in the city of Chicago. So that to me was the most exciting part about the whole conversation.
Yeah. Look, there's obviously, fire there. You heard Reinsdorf was gobbling up parking lots and property around the United Center not too long ago. And could there potentially be a Sox park over there by the United Center? Is there going to be a new United Center maybe being built? And then, of course, the whole 78 and the Chicago fire, and, who is going to potentially build here? Would anybody build here? And that's a big statement for Ish to do that in that location that has been talked about for so long. I think I'm curious to see what happens around that ballpark if it happens there. Of course, we need to wait for the big announcement that it's really going to happen, and the renderings. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. And I say that because I'm out of Bridgeport. I've been out of Bridgeport for a couple of years now. And I was in Chicago proper for a very, very, very long time. I think 16 years, and spent 4 of those years in Bridgeport, just like a 7 to 10 minute walk to the ballpark. And There is so much rich history. It is in a neighborhood, folks. I mean, Sox Park is in a neighborhood. You know, from the bars to the little, you know, mom and pop restaurants to the best pizza in all of Chicago, Phil's, which is just west of the stadium, 35th and Aberdeen, to just the eclectic nature of Bridgeport and what it's becoming, and to the folks that have been there for generations and generations, and they live on the same block as their aunt and uncle and grandma. And, you know, it's just, I heard so many wonderful stories. Those are the people where it's really going to, wow, it's going to hit home. It's going to be a shock to the system of what do you mean? Even though they're moving to the South Loop, that might as well be to Arlington Heights. You know, if you know anything about some of these neighborhoods, they're so insular. You know, some people that grow up in their neighborhood, whatever neighborhood that is in Chicago, they don't leave that neighborhood, especially if they're a certain age. You know, I would talk to neighbors and people out on a walk, and they're like, I don't go, you know, south of Pershing, which is 39th. So we're talking about a 4 to 5 block radius where they just do all of their living. My church is here, my post office, my restaurants, my kids' schools were right down the block, grocery stores were where I need to go. I don't go very far, you know. So when they go to the South Loop, you got a lot of folks that are gonna be like, screw it, I ain't going to any games. You know, I'll it's too much of a hassle. I'll just watch them if I can or listen on the radio. I don't know. I'm just, you know, hypothesizing here. But for me, for us, and for a lot of people, maybe there where it doesn't matter. I just want them to stay in Chicago and on the South Side if possible. And look, I think the stadium's great. I really do. I think the current stadium is just fine. Oh, it doesn't have the pretty skyline, and it might not face in the right direction, and this, that. Well, we don't have all these hotels and bowling alleys and, you know, rooftop bars and, you know.
Well, why don't we could use a bowling alley or two, Nick.
Give me a break. I don't need some sort of, you know, Yellowstone themed honky tonk BBQ infusion. I don't need it. Right. I got my tailgating, my lot B. I got people, you know, grilling up onions and having a blast. And that's what I like out of that experience. So to each their own. I know everybody wants the new bells and whistles, but I'm going to tell you from seeing a lot of ballparks in this fine country of ours and outside, this is a good ballpark. Okay. It might not be the best of the best, of course, but it's a good ballpark. It has a lot of great amenities, wonderful food, which they just announced this past week. Some new things coming. It's just, you know, I'm sure everybody wants that in the city location where you're right there in the heart of it. And that's where I think Ish is maybe taking the team.
That's I think where he wants to put it. It's, you know, he's a wealthy person, and you know, if you own something, and especially real estate, what is the number one rule of real estate, Nick? It's location. Yeah. So if it's going to be his for many, many years to come, it's got to be something that's going to, you know, help generate more revenue than the current location does. So I can't blame him. And to me, it's again, more exciting that decisions are being made by him than necessarily what the decision is, I guess.
Absolutely. That's the ultimate point. Yeah. So, you know, we feel excited about this team, at least you and I do. And there's a lot of neutrality, which I completely understand. Fan how you want to fan. I've got issues with the pitching, but some of these, you know, we had the kind of the prospect game against the Dodgers this past weekend, and there's a lot of standouts, man. There's some good things happening. You know, Braden Montgomery, we're going to see him eventually at 35th and Shields. He did well for himself this past spring. You got Sam Antonucci. Wow. You know, he took that spotlight in the WBC. I think we'll see him sooner rather than later as a utility guy that can play the infield and maybe a little bit of the outfield. Which they were trying him out. Will Bergola Jr. I mean, Venable calls him one of his favorites. He had a nice offensive spring, playing some infield, some shortstop. George Walco, 6'7", Pat. He made his presence felt this spring, especially in the spring breakout game. So offensively, some of the young guys that are coming up, again, you never know. We've been through this. We've been through it. It's all going to be in the book that I'm going to write. We were promised a lot of different things that it didn't live up. So we have depth though, Pat, I feel. Am I wrong on that? In depth, again, the quality of depth is a different thing, but I'm excited about the depth at different positions.
No, I think you're right, Nick. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, you mentioned it before, right? Now you just feel pretty confident with most of the guys that are stepping into the box offensively, that they have a plan, that they have a clue, and that they can do some damage up there. And they're not just weak noodles up there hitting, pop-ups and they're, Scott Fletchers of the world that are going to ground out to second base all the time. Sorry, Scott Fletcher. I hated him when I was a kid. He always seemed like
Were you Scooter, number 7, I believe?
He always seemed like he came up in big situations and failed all the time. That's my core memory of Scooter. So it doesn't seem like they have a lineup full of Scott Fletchers, is what I'm saying. Now, when you get to Andrew Benintendi, that's probably your weak noodle in the lineup at the moment. But I feel confident that the guys can fit into the roles that they're being asked to play and come through more times than not. And again, it's going to be a situation where this team is going to need to average about 4.5 runs to 5 runs a game to win. And I feel like we have an offense that can do that doesn't necessarily have to rely on hitting the ball over the fence, but certainly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a nice thing to have in your back pocket going into the season. And again, if it goes, the first couple weeks and you're just not seeing maybe the power from Moon, he's going to press. He knows why he was brought in and what he wants to do. He wants to flex the power. And if it's not coming early, fans are going to get a little restless. He's going to start pressing. I want it. It'd be great if he hit a bomb on opening day. If he can hit a bomb on Thursday, get it off the books already. Like, I've got my home run. Cool. Like, I can just get into this season. Just want to happen sooner rather than later for him. And how the lineup is constructed and how that they can roll the lineup over and just keep the line going. And it's the style that they play. We saw glimpses. It was an aggressive style this spring. I like that they were taking bags. They were doing some of the little things and coupling with, some power when it came. I'll be really interested. I think we'll get a sense early on, of course, what they want to try to do. And what kind of style of play that is. The slogan, the new slogan this year, Pat, I don't know if you saw it, is "Feel the Momentum." Okay, that's the
momentum. Okay,
yeah, feel the momentum, and
rolls off the tongue.
It really does, and that has traditionally been your rotation. If you didn't like how today went, it's like, well, we got a new guy throwing tomorrow. That's the crazy thing with baseball. Mm-hmm. That's how you can have a 12-5 loss and then win 3-0 the next day. It is, well, who's on the mound? What kind of pitchers are you throwing, and what are they throwing? So that, again, I'm not feeling great about. Okay, we've got some more than maybe warm bodies, but nothing that's terribly exciting, and that's what you need. You need some studs. You need some power arms. I mean, Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz will not break with the club, which is no surprise, but we're going to see them. We're going to see them soon, I think. And they have been impressive. They've been exciting, this spring. Both of them will have debuts in 2026. Again, you don't want to rush it, but when you're ready, you're ready. And that's another thing that it got you wanting to stay locked in, stay tuned into what's happening at 35th and Shields.
Do you think that's what you just mentioned? Those guys eventually coming up is the reason why they haven't made a move to go after a Lucas Giolito, because you're just making the assumption that these guys are eventually going to be here and they're going to be in the rotation. There's no need to go out there and overpay maybe for a guy that, has had his ups and downs over the past several years.
Yeah, very, very likely. You're not going to pay the money, whatever he's asking for, which seems to be probably outrageous if nobody else has taken a shot at him, or maybe he's just waiting for the right team, the right situation. But you're going to see some of these guys in the rotation. They're going to be gone. I think Sean Burke is. He is not going to be around very long. And if guys, if like Anthony Kay, who has had a good spring, I think he might be 3-0 this spring. And I like this guy. I've talked with this guy at Soxfest. I like what he's had to say, the experience he brings, the things very Eric Fetty-like, but it might not happen. You don't know. And then eventually you just have to cut bait and say, well, that was a low risk project. And we've got to make room for guys that we think are our future, our future arms. So, Tanner McDougal, who's throwing, triple digits, Grant Taylor. I mean, we've got some electric arms that are going to be a presence we're going to get to see in 2026. And, I think Chris Getz and company will have a much better idea, especially after the All-Star break and down the stretch of the season, of what we have here, and that's what, if I can go on a little bit of a further rant, that's what's a little frustrating. I'm trying to celebrate every moment with this season and just soak it all up, take every opportunity I can, because we know what's coming probably after this season with this lockout, this looming lockout. Yeah. And that's what really bugs me, is I think this offseason would be a perfect time to really shore some things up with some vets, spend some money, allocate it at the top of a free agency class if possible, and go after guys that we really need to push this team to the next level. Because I think you're going to have a clear picture of what your core is going to look like. Who do we have and who can we go out and get? And everything's going to get gummed up with this lockout.
Let me ask you this question, Nick, and that kind of goes, this is going to be in complete hypothetical world and way too early to have this type of conversation, but that it just sparked me to have this because of what you just said about, the looming lockout in 2027. Let's say we're living in a world 3 months from now that finds our White Sox in contention in this division. You come in as Chris Getz into this season having a plan, continuing to bring in the youth movement, continuing to stick with your core, not overspending on free agents, maybe picking up a guy here on a low risk, high reward type deals. But you're in the thick of it, and maybe you're a piece or two away in the trade market. Are you trading to try and win this year, knowing what could happen next year, or knowing that you might mortgage some of your future assets to try and win maybe a division that you'll probably get bounced out of, in the first round of a playoffs, if that were to happen? Again, tremendous hypotheticals here, but let's say this team does go on a nice run in the first half, and this division is what it typically is a bunch of, everybody's pretty much the same. The Tigers will probably they are the favorites in this division this year. But, that being said, let's say it's ours to probably have, but we need to make a move. Are you making a move, or are you sticking with the plan?
I think I'm making a move, and this is how I would justify it. There hasn't been a lot of playoff baseball for the Chicago White Sox and their fans. And if I've got a lockout coming up, and it's going to be a long, cold, nasty winter, and there are going to be some angry fans, and folks are going to be just, it's going to be tough to get those people back. I want them to have that taste of playoff baseball, or that success of a White Sox team in their minds of, hey, just this was bad. This lockout was bad, and there was a lot of mega millionaires just angry over a lot of different things, but we're coming off of a playoff experience. Just know that, and we're get ready for another run. I would try to do everything I possibly could to be successful, to have the taste of success in the mouths and the minds of White Sox fans going into the off season.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't get ridiculous with making a move, but even if you're sniffing a wild card, if you're in that conversation, you got to be a buyer, not a seller.
Yeah.
Because crazy things can happen, and that would be memory burn, I think, for a lot of fans. They'll still be pissed, but they'll remember, wow, that was a hell of a team. They really surprised a lot of people, and I'm intrigued of what they're going to do in 2027.
Well, I mean, if you're old enough like we are, and you'll talk to even older White Sox fans, it'll bring up the white flag trade. And how that still really chaps people's ass. So, I mean, again, that's extremely hypothetical. You play this back to me in 3 months and go, wow, Pat, what were you on that night when you brought that up? But, it's just interesting because you go into a season as a general manager with, some sort of plan and expectation of what your team is. But let's say, again, it's the team surprises you and you've got to kind of maybe move off of that plan. I just would be curious to see how willing Chris Getz would be to go off platform a little bit. And if he had an opportunity to go for something to improve his team, would he do it? It's interesting hypotheticals, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's good to have a plan. It's essential to have a plan. But I think you have to give yourself the freedom to be flexible and to move off the plan when situations come up and present themselves that you didn't think were options. You got to adapt, know, and I think Paul Konerko, the legend Paul Konerko, who just was inducted into the Cactus League Hall of Fame today, which was
what? I didn't know there's a Cactus League Hall of Fame.
There's a Cactus League Hall of Fame, and he is now a member of that. And he was up in the booth, and favorable, of course, because I think he's always made good with Reinsdorf and the organization, and he's saying the right things. But I think possibly the words wild card, possibly 500. I don't know. I'll have to look back at tape. Obviously the context, the vibe was trending in the right direction in his mind.
Well, you read the slogan. He said, somebody said, feel the momentum. And he's like, well, I guess I believe it. That sounds right. Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I'm going to see if we feel it in a couple weeks when we're at that home opener. What's happening by then? Hopefully Kyle Teel, we won't see him, of course, but hopefully by mid-April, and if we've got some warmer weather, that's going to help him out. We'll see Kyle Teel sooner rather than later. This is the update on Kyle Teel. Sox catcher looks as if he'll be ready to go, certainly on the low end of the 4 to 6 week original projection. But Teel and the White Sox training staff are moving forward with optimism while also being smart. Progression is going really well. Definitely say we are ahead of schedule, but it's just being smart and doing everything we can to get back stronger, Teel told MLB.com. Recently, my goal is to come back as soon as possible. There's no denying that. It's just being smart about it and making good decisions, ramping up appropriately. Yeah, I feel good. It feels much better. And there were other little nuggets to that. Some of the things that he's been doing relatively pain-free. I think he's going to be back mid-April.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when we saw it happen live, he was still able to, get to second base. He was obviously limping. He walked off under his own power. It didn't seem like, again, I'm no doctor, but it didn't seem as tragic
It wasn't a arm ripped in half.
No, it wasn't
situation.
that definite medical diagnosis.
That one,
our leg not ripped in half. I think we're good then.
muscle ripped off bone. Yeah, I was happy to read that. I'm not terribly surprised, honestly. Young man, and everyone was giving him crap for all the crazy workouts he was doing, these like calf thrusts and like, oh, well, of course he's doing all that. And this is what happens. No, he's doing all of that to build muscle, like to build a stronger leg. And if he is under supervision by a certified trainer and this is what the prescription is, I don't think it's an unusual, just, let me create my own exercise here that no one has ever done, and it serves no purpose whatsoever to the position I play or to the muscles I have. I think it was of purpose, and it's to build a stronger leg that can rebound from injury. I think he's going to be fine.
All right. Dr. Nick says all good.
Yeah. Before we get to our quote of the week, any traditions, Pat, you have anything for opening week or opening day? I know a lot of people, will wear their jersey, to their workplace, or some people take the day off, and they're just like, this is a holiday. I'm going to stay at home and watch my team. Anything that you have done? I mean, we're going to the game, we're going to Milwaukee, but anything that you need to keep sacred?
I just think going to as many games with you, buddy, as possible. I think that's my routine now. It's how do I get to a ball game on opening day with my bro, with my home dog, and let's watch the White Sox win, lose or draw, rain or shine. And that's really, I've been very, very blessed to go to many opening days. This will be, I think, my first, as it is for you, first opening day on the road.
Yeah.
But I've always had a lot of opportunity to do that and be part of kind of what I do for a living. So it's always been that for me. I haven't had to really work hard to not go to a game or not work hard to get there. It's been an opportunity, and I'm very blessed to have had that in my life. So for me, it's probably more of a normal thing to say the least, but I'm just excited to share it with you and other great White Sox. I think that's part of it, though, Nick, is the camaraderie you get and the people you can reconnect with, and that's the part of opening day, whether it's on the road or at home, that I think is special. It's just the people that you run into, the conversations you have, and the excitement on everybody's face just for baseball to be back in our lives.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more home opener on the next episode, because that's a whole other special thing. I saw something online. Somebody's been going to 50 something home openers in a row.
Holy cow.
I mean, that's an impressive number.
I don't have that streak, that's for sure, but I've been to a lot of them.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of them as well, and all kinds of weather conditions. I think not too long ago we were in shorts for an opener. It was a beautiful, beautiful day, and a little too early right now to get a gauge on the forecast, but hey, if it's 52 and there's partly sunny, that's fine. That's great. That's heaven. We're going to have, a dog, some grilled onions, maybe have a celebratory cigar or something, meet some people, enjoy some folks in Lot B. It's going to be wonderful.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to Thursday with you, my friend. Yep. And here's to 2026.
Yeah, here we are, folks. Thank you so very much for being with us on this Sunday night, jumping in on the conversations. Hopefully we can rub shoulders, introduce and meet this season at the ballpark. Love having folks reach out, and I've met so many people over the years, and it's awesome. We're speaking the same language, and I appreciate you continuing to pass this Sox podcast along to others in your life. Like, subscribe, all that stuff to the YouTube channel. And we've got the audio everywhere where you find your podcast. We're on socials at Good Guys TB. Here is your quote of the week. This is from Colson Montgomery, who was talking about the one and only Gordon Beckham visiting camp and having some conversations with Colson Montgomery, trying to pass some wisdom to Montgomery, as Beckham was. One of the biggest things he kind of helped me with was don't get away from who you are, type of thing. You have success, Montgomery said. A lot of the time, it's not even you. It's just the pitchers are making adjustments on you, and they are pitching you a different game. Just keep adapting to what the pitchers are doing and stay within yourself. It was good hearing that from him, being a really good player and just having him around. I don't know about the really good player part, but Gordon Beckham is definitely a presence around the White Sox these days. And I think the key to all of that, or the thing I took away that I absolutely agree with, is the ability for a young hitter to make adjustments, to know what a pitcher is trying to do to them, and learn that craft and adjust. And it's that game. It's an absolute game. The video is out and has been out on Colson Montgomery and the tear he went on for the Sox. He surprised probably a lot of people. Folks maybe didn't know how to pitch to him. That has changed, and how he adjusts early on. That'll be an interesting storyline.
Yeah, it's the chess match, and now he's just got to take the his God-given ability and match that up with what's upstairs. And I'm looking forward to a really good season from Colson for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you out in the good land on Thursday. Hey, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.